CPK Kemsley's transformation from his unhappy younger self. Paul P.K. Kemsley has been living his life like an open book, and he's also been feeling rather reflective about his ups and downs, especially in the year since he split from the Real Housewives of Beverly Hills Dorrit Kemsley. What he's revealed amid those many changes, both emotional and physical, really paint a picture of the current version of PK. In 2024, PK shared a look at his physical changes, which showed 2 photos of himself and how he slimmed down in recent years. "Me and my unhappy younger self," he captioned the photo that shows off his transformation. Also, in September 2024, days before he shared a look at his physical transformation, PK opened up about his sober journey at that time, offering insights into his decision to go on a wellness journey. What PK Kemsley has said about being wellness and sober journey. At that time, PK went into detail on what it's been like to publicly navigate his sober journey and why he wanted to be open about it. "I made a decision to share my sober journey publicly. Why? Firstly, to try in my small way to help break the stigma associated with addiction," he wrote at that time. "You're pretty lucky if you have never seen drink or drugs change a person you love. So for anyone on the same journey as me, congratulations. For anyone who is considering getting sober, I know it's tough and the decision is warped with fear. But I read that fear is a mile wide and an inch deep. So it looks like this ocean you're gonna step into and drown. But as soon as you step into it, you find out it's not that deep at all and you can keep walking through it." He continued in the same 2024 post, "I miss drinking for sure, still, but 9 months in, the benefits are so freaking huge. You get to witness your life as it's supposed to be experienced, raw, real, and beautiful. You get to sit in the pain and it passes. You get to look and feel better. It's so strong and empowering, I can't begin to tell you. Thanks so much for the overwhelming support I've had. For all the DMs, it def helps you stay on track, as do posts like this that make me accountable." What does Paul P.K. Kemsley's life look like today? To mark the start of 2025, PK also shared a quote about change. "For last year's words belong to last year's language, and next year's words await another voice," he shared on his Instagram, quoting T.S. Eliot's Little Gidding poem. In April, Dorrit filed for divorce from PK, 1 year after they confirmed their separation. More recently, in early May, he shared an update on his life today, writing, "57 years in, still becoming." What's next for PK Kemsley? In addition to navigating his split from Dorrit and co-parenting their 2 kids, Jagger and Phoenix, PK is also focused on work projects, including a movie based on Boy George's life and career in music, including his band Culture Club. Boy George is one of PK's longtime clients that he manages. PK Kemsley's journey back to himself. Paul P.K. Kemsley stood alone in the soft golden glow of his London flat, looking out over the city's skyline. The view was familiar, yet the man staring at it had become a stranger to himself until now. At 57, PK had rediscovered the man he'd long lost somewhere between the fame, the parties, the chaos, and the endless cameras. But the most astonishing part of his transformation wasn't visible in the mirror. It was what shimmered beneath the surface, the rebirth of a man who had once been, in his own words, an unhappy younger self. The ghost in the glass. The photo went viral faster than he expected. 2 images side by side. On the left, the PK most new, slightly heavier, flushed, smiling but hollow-eyed. On the right stood a slimmer, sharper, more grounded PK. The caption read, "Me and my unhappy younger self." It wasn't vanity that prompted the post, it was honesty. PK sat in his kitchen the morning after sharing the transformation photo. The kettle hissed as steam fogged the window. As he poured his tea, he reflected on the comment section, a mix of admiration, support, and shared vulnerability from others on the same journey. He wasn't alone anymore, and maybe that was the point. He hadn't always felt so seen. not when he was climbing his way through the London business scene, nor when he was plastered on tabloids as Dorrit's charismatic but controversial husband. He had money, clout, a mansion in Beverly Hills, but behind closed doors, he battled his demons in silence. The silence ended in 2024. The fear that wasn't. I read that fear is a mile wide and an inch deep, he wrote in a post that September. That line had stayed with him, haunted him, taunted him, until he dared to test its truth. It began with one drink too many, then another. He had always seen alcohol as a lubricant of charm, a buffer from pain, a ritual. But after years of charming, PK finally recognized that alcohol didn't bring joy. It blurred the edge of life until all that was left was static. He remembered sitting alone in his den after yet another pointless argument, Dorrit asleep upstairs, his children's laughter echoing only in memory. The glass of scotch in his hand suddenly looked like poison. That night, he put the drink down and picked up a journal. Day 1, he wrote, "I'm scared, but I'm not going back." A man rewritten. The first weeks of sobriety were unbearable. He likened it to scraping layers of himself off, peeling old paint to reveal raw wood beneath. Every emotion came crashing through: grief, regret, shame, but also wonder. PK began seeing his children with new eyes. Phoenix's delicate curiosity, Jagger's explosive laughter, it hit him like sunlight in a dark room. For years, he'd been watching his life like a movie he barely remembered starring in. Now he was back in the role, and it mattered more than anything. Therapy sessions became a lifeline. He surrounded himself with sober companions and mentors. He read books, meditated. He reconnected with faith, not in any rigid religious sense, but in the idea that maybe people could change. Maybe he could too. Echoes of Dorrit. PK never imagined a world where he and Dorrit weren't partners. They'd met in whirlwind fashion, traveled the world together, raised a family. But as the years wore on and cracks formed, they drifted. The spotlight magnified every flaw and dulled the light between them. Their separation in 2023 had felt like the end of something sacred. But as months passed, and as PK shed the layers of ego and illusion, he saw it differently. Their marriage hadn't failed, it had evolved. They were still family. They still loved their children fiercely. And now, in separation, they found a strange new harmony in co-parenting. The divorce filing in April 2025, though painful, wasn't an end. It was an acknowledgement, a statement of truth, not tragedy. Dorrit, too, was on her own path, and PK respected that more than anything. The artist's manager work became a sanctuary. Boy George, one of his dearest friends and clients, was deep in the planning stages of a film based on his life and career. PK threw himself into the project, not just as a manager, but as a collaborator, a dreamer alongside another dreamer. The film, tentatively titled Color by Numbers, was a tribute not just to Culture Club's meteoric rise, but to the resilience of the human spirit. It was, in many ways, PK's story too, about surviving excess, enduring criticism, and reclaiming identity. As he sat in a production meeting in early May 2025, reviewing concept art and script revisions, he realized he wasn't just helping tell someone else's story. He was rewriting his own, still becoming. The caption on his May 2025 post was simple, yet profound. 57 years in, still becoming. Becoming, not finished, not fixed, not a cautionary tale or redemption story. Just a man in motion. PK started giving talks, informal ones at recovery centers, guest panels, even private gatherings. Not for publicity, not for applause, but because the conversations healed something in him. Each time someone nodded, shared their truth, or cried in understanding, he felt his own burden lighten. He kept his daily journal, filled now with poems, quotes, stray observations, and gratitude lists. On New Year's Eve, he had written the T.S. Eliot quote that still rang in his head. For last year's words belong to last year's language, and next year's words await another voice. That voice, he decided, would be his own. Letters to the past. On a quiet Sunday, he wrote a letter to his unhappy younger self. It wasn't scathing. It wasn't sad. It was kind. You were trying your best. You thought success would fill the hole. You didn't realize it was love, not approval, you were chasing. But here's the truth, you made it. You fell down, but you got up. You're not perfect. You're not supposed to be. You're just real now, and that's enough. He sealed the letter and slipped it into a drawer he rarely opened, the one that held old photos, cufflinks, ticket stubs. Mementos of lives once lived. He wasn't running from them anymore. Phoenix Rising. On a spring day in May, PK and Dorrit took Phoenix and Jagger to the coast. The kids ran wild in the surf, laughter echoing down the shore. PK watched them, the sunlight warming his face, and felt peace, not the fragile peace of escape, but the steady hum of presence. Dorrit stood beside him. They didn't speak much, but when they did, it was soft, respectful understanding. They weren't together anymore, but they were still a family, just a new version of it. Later, driving home, Jagger fell asleep in the back seat, head resting on Phoenix's shoulder. PK turned the radio down and looked in the rearview mirror. What he saw was more than his children. It was a life rebuilt. He smiled.